I'm gonna say hello,
Okay, we are
welcome
live.
everybody.
Let's just see if it works.
Hello,
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 hello.
welcome everyone to our session. Okay, I'm very excited. Okay, to join the Mafia game theory learning lesson. And I'm gonna say hello,
Okay, we are
welcome
live.
everybody.
Let's just see if it
It's
works.
a very interesting topic.
Let's see if it works.
Hello,
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 hello.
welcome everyone to our
Opa.
nice. So we will start soon. Okay, but for now we're waiting for a few more people to join us. We have today currently we have in our session we have Bar Mentos, who is the manager of Nightfall, which is a mafia club in Ramat Gan near Tel Aviv. We have Benzi, thief maker, who is been playing mafia for um, many years now. Very thinking a lot about the game, how to develop the game, and how to play the game. And soon we'll have a few more players that will join us in this session. The idea is that this is an interactive session, giving people a chance to ask questions and to hear the perspectives of Bensi and others about the game. So I'm just going to make sure that everyone that wanted to join had a chance to, and in 5 minutes we will start. Lisa is here. פרסמנו
And we are live.
Amazing. So I'm very excited to introduce Diffmaker, okay, Benzi, who has been playing for many years now, Mafia, and before that, other social deduction games. They are very passionate about Mafia. They've been playing and judging and being very
And
active in
we
the community.
are live.
They even, Benzi,
So
I
I'm
recently
very
met them
excited
in
to-
Cyprus,
do I
okay?
hear
They were
myself?
very active in the Mafia World Cup finals, both playing casual games, both helping with the ceremony, helping getting people together. They play online very often, and of course on tables face to face. So I'm very, very excited, very honored to have Diffmaker and Benzi, and they've been working in the past few weeks on this presentation. So I'm very curious to see what we can learn both from Deathmaker and also from the interaction between us, between the players, about game theory, about Mafia, about how everything comes together, and maybe leave with some insights and some pointers on how to improve, how to win more games even, right? So without further ado, the floor is yours, Deathmaker.
Thank you very much, Mordred. I would just kindly ask if you could see that the stream is good and that you can hear. And
Yeah, everything is okay.
Okay, great. So before anything else, I also will introduce myself. Why you should listen to me in this presentation. So yes, as Yar mentioned, I am very passionate about the game. I play for over 6 years. I won the Israeli championship back in the day and the Nightfall Premier League first place non-manager. I'm also a profitable poker player, which is something that is going to play in this presentation. And now, before anything else, before we learn how to play Mafia, first I want to show you a scene from a movie. The movie is called Moneyball. It's just 1 minute. And the scene is they're trying to recruit players for American football team. And they're discussing who they should get. So let's just watch this 1 minute clip. Okay, so maybe you didn't hear in the Zoom, but on the live I think it worked. The brief thing here is that people have all their different conceptions of what a player should have, and he does weed and he goes this and his girlfriend is ugly and all this mystical stuff. But Brad Pitt only cares about does he get on base or not, what are his statistics. In addition to that, coming back to real football, we just had the World Cup, and as much as it pains me to say it, we all know Spain beat Argentina. And if you look at their statistics, you can see they had more possession, more shots on target. And even though Argentina in the late game, they almost made a goal, for example, and you can say, wow, they had such a beautiful attack. Over the long run, over the course of the game, what mattered is the statistic. So keeping that in mind, let's go back to Mafia. In this presentation, we will cover not necessarily how exactly to play. We will go over some examples, but what we will try to get in this presentation is how to think about the game, how to look at the game from like a statistics or a number standpoint, a game theory standpoint. And even though it might seem like the boring way, it's actually really interesting and it will help you win more games in the long run. So it's more about how to think rather than what to think. This session is interactive, so at times I will ask you questions or to participate, so feel free to do so. So before we go into more specific stuff, there's two things we need to think about. The first is, how do we choose what to do? Well, it might seem obvious, but the decision of the play to make is the one that wins more often. It's not in this game does it feel right, or in this game he's black or he's he's red. It's this specific scenario is replicated across many games. What action do I want to do that wins 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10? It still loses 2 or 3 times out of 10, but I still don't beat myself up if I make the right decision that wins more games. Even if I lose or I win, it doesn't matter. So now going more specifically into the Mafia game, there are basically 2 things in the Mafia game that we need to look at. The first one is that we operate with the assumption that other people operate in their best interest. And then we can judge them if they operated in their best interest as a red or as a Mafia or as a black. Of course, some people, not everyone always operate in their best interest, but for the simulations that we're going to see and everything, this is going to like how we're going to think about it. And once we understand like the theory, we can see how to fall back, like in non-optimal situations. The second thing, is the engine of the game. So basically, I can, for example, Mordred, you are here, and I can think that you're red or you're black based on your body language or based on how you spoke. You got a red card, I see. But all of this is just what I think. The hard engine of the game, what we will consider the engine of the game, is the sheriff. And the sheriff can give you hard information, give you checks, give you real things that you can derive everything from. So looking at it from a completely game theory perspective, this is the first question. How many games do you think, if everybody voted randomly and the Mafia simply shot someone every night, how many games do you think, it's a bit revealed here, but how many games do you think we would win? Mordred, Pirate, Vampy?
I think civilians would lose 70% of the they would lose 70% of the time. So if you are in the civilian team and everyone are doing randomly, okay, then the civilians would lose and the Mafia would win about 70% of the time.
Interesting.
I was just disconnected for I have the last half minute.
That's okay. What do you think, Vampy?
I prefer not to talk because I'm not alone here. I'm in my friend's house, so I will just listen if it's okay.
That's all right.
Mark, if you think about this the sentence that appeared.
Yeah. So basically,
Can you paraphrase the question? Does the
if
Mafia
the card use no logic, I think the sentence is correct.
But can you paraphrase the question? Does the Mafia use the information that they have? because it's a bit
So-
not fair if the
yeah,
mafia
so-
they know each other. They're an informed minority.
Oh.
Yeah, it's an informed minority against an uninformed majority. So if the mafia are using their information as an informed minority, but the informed majority has no strategy, definitely 70 or even 80% of the time the mafia would win. Is that not correct, Dave Maker?
Right, so you actually touched on a great point. The question is, if the mafia, all they do is they shoot someone at night that is civilian, that's all they do. You can think if even they vote together or they vote randomly, and the civilians vote randomly. If we simulate, the mafia wins 100% of the time, or 99.99999% of the time, if the mafia votes together and shoots together, and the civilians vote randomly. If all the votes are random and the shots are not random, then it's just 33-7, basically.
Can you elaborate on that? Because you're going very quickly. What is the difference between this? Go a bit slower. What is the difference between the simulation that you just said that all the civilians are voting randomly completely, but the mafia are well coordinated, so that leads to
Yes.
100% or 99.9% mafia victory, and the scenario that I was trying to depict that leads to a 70% versus 30%. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that a bit more?
Yes. So basically, imagine if every civilian votes randomly. Even if civilians vote for a mafia, they split their votes. Some civilians vote for this mafia, another vote for that mafia. But the mafias always have a 3-vote quorum, basically. And once they eliminate and shoot civilians, they just have nearly all the time a majority. The math just works in their favor. If the mafia as well just votes completely randomly, then that means that at every point, at every day, a random person is ejected, and at every night, a random civilian is ejected. So you would end up in a situation where the last eject that decides the game has to be either a civilian or a mafia, and it's probably around a 30-70. Maybe it's a bit different, but it still heavily favors the mafia. The point of this basically slide is to show you that using logic, voting together, listening to wheels, doing something is much better than random, because if you just go random, you don't win less. You don't win 20% less games. You will lose probably every game. So you want to use logic. You want to use the stuff that we're going to talk about in this presentation. Anybody else got a question before we move on?
I just want to mention that I would say the importance of what we might do today, and first thank you for the introduction, is that the majority of the English-speaking community in Mafia I would describe as beginner players, including myself. Yeah, I consider myself a beginner, maybe intermediate player, because there is so much to learn in terms of strategy of what we can accomplish both as Mafia, if we get a Mafia card, and what we can accomplish if we get a red card, in terms of different logic, whether it's playing more positionally, whether it's what sort of checks the sheriff should do,
Yeah.
whether it's how can I know if I believe I have two sheriffs on the table as a red. How will I believe the Don as sheriff, or will I believe the real sheriff as sheriff? These things take a lot of practice and playing hundreds of games, which most of us are not experienced enough. And also, there's a lot of theory that we're still unfamiliar with. So, are we going to touch on a few of these as examples?
So you will see R. Yes, you will see R. Sorry for cutting you off. Any more questions? Just questions about. We will have dedicated stops for questions and stuff. So I think we can move on. Okay. So, hello, Eran. As you previously mentioned, Yar, the Mafia knows the citizen must infer. Eran, can you put mute? Mr. Rementos, the host, make sure to mute people. Okay. So basically, where does the difference come from? Like, we're trying to build it from the ground up. So we understand in a blank slate where everyone is dumb and the Mafia just shoots together and votes together, we lose all the games. So now we have to understand everybody sits at the table, looks the same. What is the difference? So basically, a mafia has information that they must keep in their head. If they don't keep it, they don't know the other mafias. But that means that every word they say, every action they make, this information runs through it. So they know, and they have to act as if they don't know. Because if I, as a citizen, will know that they know, well, I will know that they are mafia. So this is the difference between how a mafia behaves and how a citizen behaves, at least on paper. And now, the one more thing before we move on is basically the tool that we can use in order to win is the collective logic and the sheriff engine, as we called it before. So basically, I could have an opinion, and someone else can have an opinion, and we can all have an opinion, and some of us are mafias and some of us are citizens. But when we all combine, like in some kind of a weighted average, all our opinions, alongside the sheriff hard checks, we are usually more right than wrong. It's not 100%, but games and statistics show that we are more right than wrong. Something that really hurts is when somebody just does whatever they want and completely ignore everyone else, and that loses more than it wins. Sometimes it wins, but it loses more than it wins. We call it like a Superman, like, I just do what I think is black, and I'm just going to play against him because he plays against me and all this. This is absolutely terrible and should be avoided. We should play together. One of the reasons this works is because if somebody plays against me, I will naturally suspect them, but other people will not suspect them. So, like, some mafias will be more present to me as a citizen, and not as present to someone else, but other mafias that attack someone else will be present to him. And then we can use all this and kind of see, who is where, basically. And probably the last thing that we'll look at is hard logic. So we're just trying to cover different elements, and then we'll connect them all together at the end. And I hope it will make sense. The last element is hard logic, and this is a very simple example. A simple logic that we can do to affect our vote. For example, we are 5 players at the table, and there are 2 mafias and 3 civilians. One of them is a confirmed red. By the sheriff's engine of checking, we know a confirmed red, everybody knows that. So now, the question is, what should we do? It's written here, but anybody wants to say, where should you vote? Okay. Basically, where you should vote is with the red check. And why? So, if we think about it, there are 2 mafias and 3 reds. If one civilian votes incorrectly, the 2 mafias can join him or her and win the game on the spot. And since we know of one confirmed red, we have to vote with them. If they vote correctly, we join them and vote correctly and win. If they vote incorrectly, then even if we would vote without them, we would lose, because the mafias will already join the red check and have the 3 votes majority and win. This is why we have to vote with them, because if they will vote correctly and we will not vote with them, even if we vote correctly for the other mafia, we split our votes and we risk losing. So this is just basically all these slides, they show the different elements of logic, how we should act, and how we should influence our vote, regardless, like how to form our opinion, but also how to vote regardless of our opinion. Now, this is a very simple example that probably everyone knows, even beginners, but we will go into more. This is like the laying the bricks, the groundworks for what we do. So now we have to start and actually think, where do wins come from? Maybe I just play the game, I just have fun, I think he's red, I think he's black, I vote here, I vote there, and I have a 34% win rate. I want to make it 60, I want to make it 55, I want to make it 70. How do I increase my win rate? In order to increase the win rate, we have to understand where, like what makes a game one for the town or one for the mafia. So, to understand how to win as civilian, we first have to understand how to win as mafia. Mafia has two ways in order to win, two avenues. Either they run a competing version and win the version, or they hide. For example, to win the version, you have Don revealing as a sheriff, giving checks, people believe him, and he just eliminates red players. And he's well known, he's out there, he's found. The other option is to hide. So we kill the sheriff, we eliminate the hard engine information, and now we just hide, we just try to speak as civilians. Statistics show that hiding for Mafia is preferable to winning the version. So if 3 or 2 Mafias are unknown, they win more games than they lose. So when Mafia thinks about what decisions to make, they should try to move the game in a way where the sheriff is killed and they just hide. Because when the version is chosen, when there's 2 sheriffs, the town wins more. So it's very hard for town, statistically speaking, to find all the right mafias. But if all the mafias are found and you just have to choose between 2 versions, the town wins much more games. And this is just statistically from hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of games. This is not me. And this is pretty much the consensus. So I'm like giving you the answer. We already ran the experiment. This is how it goes. So, for example, in a typical game, I mean, this is just what I showed. If the sheriff is killed first, or in 9 players, a red player is eliminated and then the sheriff is killed, the mafia just wins more. So knowing this quote-unquote meta, now we can understand how mafia should play and how town should play. For example, in the first phase, the sheriff is alive, but they are completely unknown. In this stage of the game, usually, from a game theory perspective, the mafia should play linear. They should try to vote for red players and work with their other mafias. And the town still gathers information and tries to hide the sheriff. Now, why is that? Because if the mafia will play against each other and vote for other mafias, the sheriff is still unknown. When the sheriff will reveal themselves, there will be a version, and already mafias are voted out. Already they are weaker standing on the table. If they are playing together and against and eliminating reds, then when the sheriff comes out or is dead, already the situation for the mafia is better. What if the sheriff is alive but they are known? In this case, depending of course on the checks and everything, but in a general case, you should kill the sheriff, and the town should of course cash in the checks, try to get as much information. And if the sheriff is dead, well, there is no more information left. Now the mafia can get tricky. Now the mafia can play against each other. Now the mafia can vote for other mafias. They only need one mafia to survive the game in order to win, and the town needs to eliminate all of the mafias. So here it's the toughest for the town if there are not enough sheriffs. But the most people know that, let's say, before there is anything, usually, let's say, mafia should play with mafia or at least vote for reds before there's any information. And after the sheriff is dead, everybody knows that mafias run away from each other. But the critical stage is the phase 2. When the sheriff is known but still alive, that's when mafia can get really tricky. If the Don, for example, knows the sheriff checked the sheriff, they can already act as a civilian and vote for a mafia or a black check and believe the real sheriff because they know who the sheriff is. So this is going back here, this is a tricky balance that the mafia plays between deciding to go head-to-head into a version or to hide. And when we consider versions and when we consider the civilianness or mafianess of players, we need to think about the stages of the game and whether that player had a decision to hide or play against and what they did. So, just stopping for a second, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Mordred.
Yes, so this is excellent, everything that you talk about, and it's really interesting, and you show the high risk versus low risk. Can you move back to the previous slide for the high and low risk one? Now, we've done a master class with Mika and Fugacity about 2 years ago, and we talked exactly about these things, about how to play as Don and how to play as Sheriff. And in that masterclass, one of the major themes was if you don't kill the sheriff on the first night, okay, that's why you can check, yeah, as Don, you can check the first kill, and if they are not the sheriff, then you almost have to play 2 versions. And why? Because then you have a sheriff with 2 checks, okay, they might find Mafia out of those 2 checks or 2 reds, and you have a Don going against them. So basically the sheriff did their job by surviving, not dying on the first night. The sheriff will get 2 checks. They're very likely to find 1 Mafia and the Don against them. So that's it. It's going to end in the round of 3 in the guessing game, which is very good for the town because it gives them at least 50% chance, if not more. The Mafia want to win 60, 70% in like a tournament. So my point is, can't I argue that it's the other way around, that winning the version is actually the preferred strategy because the Dawn has more information, especially at the level of what I call intermediate Mafia, the level that most of us play. Isn't it easier to just play, unless you kill the sheriff on the first night, yeah? But then you just hide and that's a boring game and Mafia will win.
Yes.
So isn't it preferable to play 2 versions?
The question, Mordred. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Good.
It's good to have questions. Let's just try to keep them kind of short for the stream. You said in the start that you're a beginner, but I see that you're at least intermediate because you're jumping ahead. Yes, basically hiding versus winning the version is basically a game of balance. So if you can hide a lot of Mafias really well, then you would tend there. But if you can't, then you would tend to win the version. Also, sometimes everybody thinks you're so red where you would opt to win the version and win 3-on-3, even though you can hide. So it varies, and we are going to talk about when to do what. But if you can hide 2 or more Mafias, then you should definitely hide. If you do not find the sheriff and you don't kill them after the second night, as you said, yes, you should usually try to run a version. And a lot of more beginners, they just try to hide, but you have your version, like all the Mafias are coming out, you have to make a plausible version. You're absolutely right. So we're going to see how to balance it. Me personally, personal preference, I always err on the side of hiding. And there's a game theory explanation for that. Because if you, let's say, you hide all the time and you never reveal if you are done, then every time that you reveal a sheriff, you should be believed. Like against discerning opponents over a long course of games, they know that you only reveal when you're the sheriff. This is an extreme example, of course. Then you can get your wins by hiding, and you can get more wins as sheriff because nobody's gonna believe anybody reveals against you. So of course sometimes you have to reveal, but if you maximize the hiding and minimize the win diversion to a point where you reveal when you need to, so you can protect your wins when you need to win diversions, but you hide enough times that when you do reveal, you are more believable as both sheriff and Don, because this is like balancing out, but we are going to talk about this balance exactly in the coming slides. So looking at the rounds, looking at the simple flow of the game, as Mordred has hinted, round 0 is mostly blanks. It's just he says, she says, this does, that, blah, 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 you know? There's no real information. It's only mental reads, emotional reads, word slips, and stuff like that. But in the round of 9 players, usually after there was a split, people remained. In the night, somebody got killed. This is the first night. After the first night, this is the first round where the game truly begins. You have some hard information. There is a sheriff hiding, trying to eliminate his black check or protect his red check. There is a mafia trying to make a play. Here is the first elimination and the first really interesting round. And voting in this round, is basically the blueprint for the entire game. From here, after this elimination, usually the town goes into critical, unless you eliminated the mafia or confirmed the mafia. You might have eliminated the mafia and you don't know. You are living in a critical, meaning in the next day, any wrong vote will result in a civilian loss. So, for example, as we previously spoke, if in 9 players the mafia can vote out a red player and shoot the sheriff, almost no matter what, they have very high chance of succeeding the desired 60, 70, 80% win rate that Mordred previously mentioned. But if the sheriff can survive this night as well, meaning they can just not be killed, this is a very high, like when you look at a lot of game, a very high statistical indicator for a town win, if the sheriff survives this night as well. Why? Well, the sheriff will have 2 checks and the ability to check a third if the game will continue, even if he's shot after he reveals. And the mafias basically have 2 bad options. Either they try to hide, and then it's very hard because the sheriff has 3 checks, or they run a version, but running a version against a real sheriff, statistics show that the real sheriff wins the version more. So this is the ideal situation for the town, which is why, and this is a very big mistake that I see in our lobbies, sheriff should hide in 9 players. Sheriff should hide in 9 players, and I'm going to say it one more time. Sheriff should hide in 9 players. If the sheriff himself is not up for elimination, and their red check is not up or their black check is on the cross, like if nothing major happens, nobody's trying to split 3 players, just eliminate someone and hide. And even better, if the mafia reveals and they have a fake black check, eliminate them, start the balance. I remember 2 games where the sheriff voted for the black check of the Don. 2 games where we won. Why? Because 1, you start a balance and you allow in the next round to eliminate 1 black from your version, which you will probably find in 3 checks and the Don reveal. And 2, it allows you to be super believable because you did not reveal in order to survive. The Don did reveal and not shot. It's a lot less believable. And you're probably not mafia with the mafia that you voted for. It also, if you look at game theory, in order to compete with this level of sheriffness, Dons will have to start voting for their own blacks in 9 players when the sheriff reveals with a black check. And then you just play a game where 1 mafia is voted out for free. So it's just such a net positive for the town, for the sheriff to stay hidden. Not always, not in every game, but you should always try to stay alive. Now, coming to the next slide, basically what you want is to balance out as a sheriff, staying alive versus game critical. So, if the game is not in a critical state, usually you want to stay hidden. Not always, but usually you want to stay hidden. And this now comes back into the town, into the civilians. Me, as a civilian, who, let's say, everybody is civilian. Everybody who plays the game are super advanced, and everybody understands the game theory, and everybody understands that everybody understands. Civilians should wait until the last microsecond to make a critical decision. Why? Because then they have the most amount of information. So for example, maybe the sheriff can reveal now and I can already eliminate a black and sometimes that's what you want to do. But if the sheriff stays hidden and gets more information, and now you're in a round of 7 players or 6 players or 5 players, and you have all the information and you have 2 versions and you have the checks and you have everything, it's going to be very hard for a Don to emulate all the sheriff thinking, all the correct checks, all the crisscross applesauce, this against that against this and why they made it, and give emotion. In this situation where you wait until the last second to make the critical decision, you just win more games. Because you can be like in 9 players, 1 sheriff reveal, I don't think they're the sheriff, I'll just go to eliminate them, start with elimination of a black. Well, you might make an elimination of a sheriff. Now, of course, when there's 2 sheriffs, if you eliminate, you start a balance, then the sheriff can be killed, and it puts the blacks in the mafias in the winning spot. But if the sheriff hides, it allows you as a civilian to just stall, just get more information, just have more concrete stuff in order to make the correct decision in more games over time. And this is why, generally speaking, sheriff should hide, civilians should wait until critical and make the decision with the most amount of information. Yes, Mordred, you have a question.
As first, this is super interesting, and thank you so much for sharing. For the sake of interactivity, I would like to ask a question. Okay, this is very well connected. So when I am Don, okay, I play almost the same every time when I'm Don. I pretend, of course, to be sheriff by hiding, by implementing that strategy. But from the perspective of a Don pretending to be sheriff, I let someone that, from my perspective, might be red leave the table. Okay. I let them leave, whether I join hand against them, whether I ideally not put my hand against them. I let a red leave from my version. And then in a critical round of 7, I have so much information, I can give a black check on a red player. I can give a black check on the sheriff if I found him or think who might the sheriff be. I can do so many things, and almost 80% or 90% of the cases, my version would be preferable because I have more information than the real sheriff. The real sheriff is stuck with their checks. Maybe we eliminated their red check. Maybe they checked me, the Don, which is not a good check for the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't want to find the Don. They want to find mafias, right? Because the Don will reveal against them. So what I'm saying is that you're saying in a way the opposite. You're saying that in a round of 7, in a critical round, the real sheriff has a better chance. And I'm saying that, at least from my experience, from what I call intermediate games, the sheriff is very difficult for them to convince in a critical round, in a round of 7, that they are the real sheriff because they have less information. And the Don, all they need is 1 red to buy. All they need is 1 red out of the 4 to play with the Don, and not even all of the reds. Just 1 little red to play with them, to convince 25%, of the reds. And I think if you are experienced enough, and again I mean intermediate level, you will win as a Don in a critical round 80% of the time. And if you lose, you need to think very carefully. You've done something wrong as Don.
That's a fantastic question. I see Vampi raising her hand. Yes.
Yes, I wanted to ask regarding just to make it more clear. For example, when I'm the Don, sometimes I choose not to reveal as a sheriff because I see that the other sheriff have a stronger version, and I choose to continue to hide and, as you mentioned, play against my black players, especially when they're on the grill already. So the question here is, when do you know, is there any statistics, any logic, anything that you can, take for your logic to understand when to reveal with another you understand me, and when to not reveal at all?
That's a great question. So let me answer both. So Vampy asked, basically, when should you play against the sheriff as a Don? And when should you just stay hide and play against your mafias? Well, in the example that you've mentioned, you said that the sheriff already revealed. Now, depending on which round it is, but let's say it's a round of 9 players, I would almost always just stay hidden and shoot the sheriff. Why? Depends what their check is, but let's say they have a red check. I play against mafias, I ask for a check on a mafia, I shoot them. That's it. Either I'm checked or my mafia is checked, the other one is more red, and there is another third mafia completely hidden. The mafia will win many more games. Not all of them, but many more games. Even if they have a black check, if I didn't reveal, I can play against the black check and be more red. And even if they find another mafia, the last one can survive. And if they don't, there can be 2-on-2. You do have to read the table. If all the mafias are super sus and out and just, evaporating from the table, maybe you have to play 2 versions. But you should think about how many mafias can survive hiding if I kill the sheriff. And if the answer is definitely 1, or maybe 2, or definitely 2, then you should kill the sheriff. But if the answer is, I don't even know if 1 mafia survives, then maybe you want to play 2 versions.
Just wanted to summarize to see if I got the bottom line. So you're saying in a round of 9, okay, try to shoot the sheriff. If the sheriff revealed in a round of 9, just shoot them, coordinate them. In a worst case, even just confess and say as the Don, but ideally just coordinate on them and hide. Just shoot the sheriff in the round of 9 if they reveal. And I've noticed that more experienced players, because I've played also the final series in Bonn with the motion games, and some players there are very experienced. I would say they are way beyond the intermediate level. They always found the player, for example, leaked, okay, when they're done, they always find the sheriff in the round of 9, even when the sheriff doesn't reveal, based on what players say around the table that are less experienced than them, more intermediate. So what you're saying is, in the round of 9, try to kill the sheriff, either if it's a revealed sheriff, or try to deduce who the sheriff is and just kill them and hide. But my addition, in the round of if you failed to kill the sheriff in the round of 9, then my argument, you have to play 2 versions. I would say yes, and right, you need to prepare for that moment that you failed to shoot the sheriff, and to win in the round of 7 3-on-3, if you can win 3-on-3 in the critical round of 7.
So yes, and I still owe you an answer for your first question. So there's a couple of things. First of all, yes, you should always want to kill the sheriff on a 9 players. An example where you wouldn't want to do it is when they have a black check and you already revealed yourself as a Don as the other black, and the third black is already sus. Well, in this case, you just want to play versions. You don't want to kill the sheriff because everybody's out, nobody's hidden, so you have to play the version. Now, as for your question about hiding, and revealing in 7 and being in critical, and then 1 red makes a mistake and you lose, well, the beauty is it's not really that simple. In the high level play, and we are assuming here game theory where everybody understands the theory and everybody understands that everybody understands. If we look at all the information that we have in 7 players and the elimination and how they played and how they revealed and when they revealed and what are their checks, theoretically, what should happen? The sheriff already have 3 checks, right? Or 2 checks. And the Don already have some checks. So it depends on what the checks are. But for example, 1 or 2 red players are already black in the version of the Don, so they know where to vote. And 1 or 2 black players, except for the Don, are already out there, so you know where they are going to vote. So in reality, only 1 or 2 red players should have a decision, and you might even be in a situation like this one, where you are in 7 players, 3 mafias, and 1 double-sided red check. So you only have to convince them. And if everybody's playing in a high level, and everybody knows that everybody knows, according to game theory, over a lot of games, when you have all the information, even in 7-player critical, you are going to choose the right version more times than you are going to choose the wrong version. And if you choose the right version here, well, all the mafias are going to be out. You have enough checks, so there is no element of hiding. Now, what you're describing, Mordred, is maybe something slightly differently, where players haven't watched this session and don't understand the game theory logic, and they just dilly-dally around and just vote randomly, just like in this example. And in this example, enough. Why do we have 100% Mafia win here? Because enough that one red votes wrong randomly, then you win. So I would say that your strategy could dominate newer lobbies or even newer intermediate lobbies, but in high skill lobbies where everybody knows, your strategy will lose more times than it wins. If you let the civilians all the information, you push them to critical, they will just choose the right version 50, 60, 70% of the time and win.
So on practical terms, okay, what advice would you give to the 4 civilians in a critical round against 3 mafias to choose the right version, not to believe Mordred the Don that is pretending to be sheriff and giving you a black check and everything all fits together like a puzzle, but to believe a poor sheriff that made the wrong checks,
Perfect
checked someone who was
question.
killed.
Yes.
Yeah, in practical terms, how can they find the right version?
Okay, so perfect question. You're just jumping ahead. So we have 4 different roles, and so we have 4 different playbooks. So now we're going, having known everything that we understand, kind of like from the bottom up, looking at it from a game theory logic perspective. Of course, the game is much more noisy and dirty, and there's different stuff. Let's look at what the textbook says. What, let's say, like in chess, you have an engine. Like, what is the top engine move for every role? And then we can understand where to deviate, when the situation arises. So citizen, and you can see we have a nice picture for every different. Your job is to pronounce it nicely, phrase it nicely, feed the engine, then strike late. So all you have to do is redden yourself, consume as much information as possible, and reward the better play. And we're going to explain what a better play means in a second, where you assume there is best interest. For example, just as a quick example, a sheriff that breaks the split in the round of 0, if you always reward that, you will lose more games because it allows dons to do whatever. So you have to basically, in your decision, enable versions that win you more games, because if you enable the versions that win you less games, you will win less games. And we will show exactly what it means in the next slides, or in this one. For example,
You also mean pedagogically. You don't want to encourage this behavior because then this behavior is going to be rewarded and it will be repeated and you will lose again. So you want to encourage a positive behavior that helps the red solve the game if you're red.
Yes. So coming back to what I previously said, and this is also my preference and somewhat of a consensus, when you make more early decisions with less information, you basically win the version that you like. If you choose earlier between the versions, then you win that version more, but the chance that you choose the correct version lowers. And when you choose later, the chance that the percentages here of course are not really realistic, but the chance that you choose the correct version is greater. But of course, because you chose it later, where you're in a more critical state, already eliminated some reds, then maybe the chance to win that version lowers. So you have to balance out when you do that. But of course, what I'm trying to say, especially for in order to improve, is you want to wait. You want to get all the information. You want to give more chances for the Mafia to make a mistake, to reveal their Mafia card, or for Reds to reveal their red card, in order to choose the correct version. Because if you do, you will win. As a Mafia, what do you want to do? So as I previously mentioned, you want to be indistinguishable from a citizen and default to linear Mafia play. What is a linear Mafia play? It means that you play with your Mafia, you redden them, they redden you, and you just hit the Reds hard. You eliminate Reds, you don't eliminate your own Mafia. It's a simple game. You play with your team. Generally speaking, of course, there's always exceptions. When do you deviate? As we said before, if the sheriff is killable without all the Mafias or many Mafias exposed, then you want to hide. If not, don't fear, attack civilians. Say that they are Mafia. Convince other civilians to vote for these civilians. Convince other civilians that your Mafia is civilian. Protect your Mafia, attack civilians. Basically, you play linear. If you understand the sheriff is going to be killed or the sheriff has been killed and there is no more information, then you play non-linear. But if you, for example, if you're Dawn revealed and you're playing against another sheriff and there's two versions and the chances of hiding are getting slimmer and slimmer, you're already in 9 players, in 7 players, in 5 players, you're not going to hide. This is your time to say, let's say your Dawn is number 7. Number 7 is my sheriff. Here is why. And give arguments that convince the town. Don't be like, oh, I think the real sheriff is the sheriff, so he will redden me because he thinks I'm more red now and all this. Don't hide. Attack the sheriff. Don't be afraid. Now, talking about the sheriff. What should you do as the sheriff? You should stay hiding, stay silent, stay hidden, especially in 9 players. Basically, coming back to what we've discussed before, you want to gain as much information as possible before revealing. If you reveal before critical, you can be shot and have less information and allow the Mafias to hide and win more games. But if you stay hidden and you get more information, you force the Mafias into a clash and you win more games yourself. Yes, Tzafrir.
Yes, I think it's important to for beginners to understand it, because sometimes I did try to hide as a sheriff and join the elimination of the Dawn blackjack, and after that, when I revealed myself, a player blackened me in such an way that I can, and there was red players, and I say, I wanted to survive. I wanted to hide. I don't know. I had red check. I don't have anyone. I knowingly playing against. So I'm hiding. I want another checks. And I think it's important that you are saying that the player understand that the best interest of the sheriff is to hide.
You are bringing up an excellent point that happens to many advanced sheriffs. You have to think, if you are a more advanced player, playing with people who don't understand the meta and where to win more games, sometimes you have to force yourself into a strategy that wins less games, like revealing. And you have to gauge in the moment, is this town good enough to understand a hiding sheriff is the sheriff, and choose correctly. But I would want, hopefully, to show everyone that this is indeed the right play many times. Yes, Vampi?
I have another thing to add, maybe, regarding the option that other players reveal you as a sheriff on the 9 players.
Oh,
this is something
the first skill.
Yeah. What?
You mean the first skill?
No, I mean, like, if somebody is revealing you, it doesn't matter. You found someone who is red on the table, and you try to reveal to him, not the first skill, like somebody that you find he is red. And then he said, a sheriff revealed to me, number one is the sheriff.
Yes.
What can you do to protect yourself? Because then the mafia will know that you're the sheriff and they will
Don't
shut you
reveal.
By the
immediately.
way, Diff Maker,
No.
you did it to me. You did it to me. If
It's
you
not. It's you just want to show like to this person that you checked that you are the sheriff and you checked him as red, so he will
Okay.
know, or maybe try to reveal as you do to protect him.
Yes.
You mean yeah?
I understand the question. So your question, I would ask another question. For example, what do you do if a red player breaks on a red player in round of 0? Well, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's just not a good, and hopefully everybody watches this session and understand not to do that. I would never do such a mistake. Wink, wink, Mordred. Of course. So, for example, when I revealed Mordred, there was a game where I was a red player, and I so much didn't believe Mordred that I revealed him. It was a mistake. It was a deviation from the game theory optimal play, but at least I understood it. So, if I played 100 games, maybe I did it once and I was right, and once and I was wrong. But I prevented myself, even if I didn't believe the sheriff, because I understand the game theory optimal play. Now, as a sheriff, you want, to hide, especially 9 players.
Yes.
Because you win more games. If everybody understands this, then we can judge players based on how they behave regarding this. For example, if somebody understood that I am a sheriff, not my red check, and revealed me, right? Oh, I saw him revealing. Well, that is a very mafia thing to do, because they're trying to expose the sheriff, so they will be shot, so the mafia can hide and not have to play head-to-head versions. So,
but how can you communicate with this player? For example, it happened to be when I was a sheriff, and other one was revealed me on 9 players. How can you protect yourself as a sheriff?
Yeah. So listen. If you have a red check, you should reveal to them, give them that information, so they can, assuming they understand the game theory optimal play and know how to play, they can defend you. They can already calculate the game with this new information from their perspective. If they choose to reveal you, there's nothing you can do. This is their mistake, and hopefully after the game they watch this session and improve for next time. You shouldn't not reveal. Yes, Mordred.
Should I reveal to a player that asked a check on someone that I found as Mafia, that I checked black? For example, I'm the sheriff, I checked 1. 1 is Mafia. The reason I checked 1 is because 2 insisted on checking 1. Okay? Should I, in round of 9, obviously I'm not going to reveal, I want to hide. Can I reveal to player number 2, assuming that they're more likely to be a civilian, because it's unlikely, not impossible, but less likely for 2 mafias to ask a checks on each other on a round of 10 players on the round 0. Should I reveal to player 2, assuming that they are probably red or not?
Great question, and this will be the last question for this slide. You are talking again about where you balance things. So you have a black check, you want them eliminated. But if you reveal to the entire table, well, you risk eliminating your black and dying and not finding all the mafias. So you have to gauge how much will you profit from eliminating this black, then your risk of being found. So for example, yes, somebody who attacked the black is more likely red, more likely, and you can reveal to them, so they will take the hit and maybe the shot and help you eliminate the black. This is something that you have to determine in the game. How much you trust this person, how much are you hidden, how much the black is under the crossfire. If the black is running the table and everybody thinks they're red, maybe you should reveal to someone or even outright yourself. But this is about balancing out those different things. And my session is about presenting you with the different things, like understanding the meta of hiding, and that wins you more games, understanding the meta of being believable and eliminating blacks, And once you understand that, you see it, you play 100 games, you see how it plays out in 100 games. Now you're aware of it. And then you fill in your brain the data of when you should reveal to player number 2 in your question, of where the balance goes exactly, of I should expose myself a little bit in order to eliminate the black. Because as long as it's not critical, if all the blacks are found, you can eliminate the red now. It doesn't matter, because you're going to eliminate the blacks next. So all you have to consider is, are you preventing an elimination that, let's say somebody you're not going to check, you're going to eliminate anyway. Well, maybe it's good to eliminate them anyway, because it progresses the game. But just before we move on to the next slide, I just want to say, as a sheriff, besides hiding, I want to talk about what kind of checks you should make. Because a lot of people, they make individual checks, solo Superman checks, as we previously mentioned. What should you do? So your checks have to consider two things. First of all, you want to get as many colors as possible. So you don't want to, let's say somebody didn't speak and you suspect them and they just skipped their minute and nobody spoke about them as well. That's an extreme example, of course. And you check them and you found them black. What other colors have you gotten? 0. But let's say somebody plays with somebody who doesn't play with somebody, who attacks somebody, who knows for sure this somebody is black and this somebody is red. Well, here you can do the crisscross applesauce, think about all the different connections, and try to make a check that cascade produces more colors for you. And the next thing that you want to consider is this little formula here. The value of a check is what is the probability you think it's going to be a black check, and what do you gain if it's black, plus what is the probability you think it's red times the gain if it's red. What does that formula means? It means that, let's say I suspect someone, and if I find them black, it's a nice gain, because I found the black and I can eliminate them. But if they happen to be red, it's disastrous. It ruins the game. He will play against me, or the math won't add up, or something. So you have to be careful with this check. This is a risky check. But let's say you have another where you less think that they are black, but if they are black, it's a gain, and even if they are red, it's a good gain because it will help you, whatever. So you should always think what will happen if, like when you are about to check someone, you have to think what will happen if they are red, and what will happen if they come out as black, and weigh these options together in order to make a check. And finally, we've spoken about civilian, mafia, and sheriff. We come to the mastermind, the orchestrator of the game, the Don. The Don is arguably the toughest role in the game, because you have the civilians who are just plain civilians, you have the mafias who are mafias, you have the sheriff, which has the additional ability to check, and then you have the Don. You are mafia, you have to look as civilian, you might have to look as a sheriff, you have to produce fake checks, you have to coordinate and shoot someone at night, you have to do all these things at once while speaking normally. This role basically is the hardest, but also the most impactful. If you are a Don who knows what they're doing, understands the game theory, you can win 70 or 80% of the game, no matter what the 9 other players do. Why? Because you understand where wins come from and you steer the game in that direction. So your number one priority, as written here, is to just kill the sheriff. Eliminate a red and kill the sheriff. If you're able to kill the sheriff on the first night, or eliminate a red and kill the sheriff on the second night, you're just going to win 70, 80, 90% of your games. That's it. You don't have to speak well. You don't have to be red. You don't have to do anything. Just run 1,000 games together where the sheriff is killed on the first or second night, and you just win more games than you lose. Knowing the meta of when you should try to hide and when you should reveal against the sheriff, now you can balance it out. For example, if you found the sheriff, you can play against your mafias, play with the sheriff, and kill them. And if you know that you're not going to find them, well, now you prepare to be a sheriff. Now you prepare to reveal. Now you already think about the people you red and you black and who would make sense for you to check and all this. And you can basically try to play as indistinguishable as possible from a real sheriff. And the last thing that you want to consider is who to kill. Well, a lot of people prefer to kill somebody who is playing against mafias or playing with mafias, or but the number one thing that you should think, except of course from killing the sheriff, when you're deciding between just who to kill, you want to shoot at somebody who will never be voted out. Of course, if they also suspect the mafias, it's better. But this is the number one thing that you should consider. So let's say that the sheriff was killed. They have a check, whatever, maybe one mafia is revealed with the check. They're eliminated. Okay. Your plan in your mind should be, who are the 2 or 3, like, in order to win a game, you need to eliminate 2 civilians. If you eliminate 1 civilian, it's critical. 2 civilians, you win. So you, from the pool of the players that remain, that are unchecked, where are the 2 civilians that I can eliminate, that I can convince this person and this person to eliminate? Already in the round of 7 players, let's say there's 1 black check, the sheriff is killed, so we all know we're going to eliminate the black check, and then I have to eliminate 2 civilians. Who are they going to be? And that's how you coordinate the killing. The civilians that you don't think you can eliminate. Okay, we've spoken a lot. Let's look at a worked example. A common situation that could happen. And I've taken this from a real game that happened online. For example, we have 2 players who claim sheriff. We have player 7, who is dead and was voted off in the 9-player round. That means after the first night, somebody was killed, and already 9 players, we eliminated 1 sheriff. He claimed to be a sheriff with a black check on the player that was killed in night 1, or a red check. I think there's a mistake here. And there is another player who is alive, who reveals the next day with the real sheriff, who reveals as the real sheriff with a contradicting version. So can anybody, and this is a red check here. So we have 1 sheriff who has a red check on the first player who died, who was eliminated in the round of 9. And then in the next round, player number 3 also reveals and says that he's the real sheriff. Just based on this information, who do you think is the sheriff? Yes, it's a fail.
I think the sheriff is player number 7.
You think he's more likely the sheriff?
No. If we say what you say, that I'm thinking everybody playing according to the best action they need, no, the player 3 is the sheriff. Because what is the interest of him to be revealing if he's the Don and he already eliminated the sheriff?
Fantastic answer. You're right. There are multiple reasons. You should play player number 3's version. There are a multitude of reasons. First of all, yes, already player number 7 is dead, and their check is also dead. So there is no information. The mafias can hide and win so many games. So if everybody knows that everybody knows the game theory optimal, why does player 3 reveal? He can already win so many games. So the fact that he reveals indicates that he's much more likely to be sheriff. The other reason is how many you as a civilian want to play 3's version, because even if player 7 is the real sheriff and you believe them and you eliminate player 7 is the sheriff and you believe them and you eliminate player number 3, there are still 2 hidden mafias that are going to win so many games against you. But if you play player 3's version, then you win so many games where he's the sheriff. So even like player 7, even if you choose his version, and even if you are correct, you lose almost all the games. And if you're wrong, then of course you lose all the games. But in player 3's version, okay, if you're wrong, you're not going to win it, but if you're right, you're going to win a lot. So here we can look at the probability each one of them is the sheriff, and also the probability to win if you choose the correct version. And when you multiply those probabilities, you see that it's just not worth it to play 7th version. If you play 7th version, your win rate over a course of a million games is going to be 5-10%. If you play 3's version, you're going to win 50, 60, 70% of the games. Yes, Mr. Mordred.
So you might talk about it soon, but what happens in a situation where the probability of someone being a sheriff is, let's say, slightly lower, but on the other hand, okay, the probability of winning, okay, if they are the sheriff is like very, very high. So I need to do the like to think about calibrating that, right? And how do we calculate it, and
Yes.
how do we decide what to do?
Well, that is the beauty. I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to give you how to find them. So this is what we talked about in the start. Now you think about it. Now you understand that you have to balance how much they are the sheriff times how much their version will be won. Now, of course, a lot of people can use that as an excuse. Look, my version, if we just choose me, we win. So a lot of time there is a correlation. When somebody's presenting a very winnable version, they can be less sheriff. And when they really don't know, because they are just the real sheriff who can't know, you have to play a lot of games being aware of this, adding this to your memory and experience now that you know to look at this stuff. And then you can have a good gauge of, because if you're a newer player, you have no idea what's your winning probability in a given situation if you select this version, and you have no real probability to choose right between the versions. But as you play more games and you're aware of this, then you can multiply and then you can decide. And I try to give you some example. Now this example is a very extreme one where one sheriff is just completely have no information and the other one has completely no reason to do it. So of course 3 is the sheriff and you only win the, but yes, you get complicated, in real life you get complicated scenarios. So wrapping everything up, summarizing everything up, you have to think about these 4 points. You want to play the long run. Even if this game you lost, it doesn't mean you did something wrong. Because I think it was Roger Federer in tennis or Rafael Nadal, they said, you know how I became world champion or this? I lost 45% of my games. I lost 42% of my games. They only won.
No. Federer said that he lost more than half his game. Yeah. About half his game, he said that, and he's the most winnable player ever, I think.
Thank you for the correction. So even more, you cannot, no matter what, you cannot win all games. What you want to strive is to win as many games as possible. And in order to do that, you have to understand and accept that there will be losses. What you should judge is according to how the game was played. Was this a missed win? Or was this, let's call it a healthy loss? Just one of these losses that you cannot win. Because if you win 55% of your games, of all roles, you are doing fantastic. But that means that if you play 100 games, you lose 45 of them. But being able to win more than you lose, this is what puts you ahead of other players. This is how you rise to the top, and this is what you should strive for, winning more games, but not winning all games. The second is, the only way to win as town is to apply logic. If you dilly-dally, go around eating a sandwich, not concentrating, you're just going to lose a shit ton of games. So you have to look at all the information, process it, crisscross it with all the things that we've spoken about, seeing how people acted in their best interest. As a sheriff, did he try to hide? As a Don, did he try to do this and that, according to everything that we've done? And apply the logic. and follow the logic. And even if you lose, understand that you win more in the long run, and try to play a team game. Don't Superman it. Understand that the real hard information only comes from the sheriff, and this is where your win rate comes from as a civilian. So you should protect it and follow it. And understand what phase of the game you're in. Is the sheriff known or unknown? What are the checks? And act accordingly. So just adapt. Knowing all of this, you are not going to be a significantly better player tomorrow, but you are going to be able to be a better player, because there are people, I'm not going to name names, who play for 6, 8, 10 years and they are still mediocre players. That's because they don't observe and improve. They just play. But now, if you understand the game theory and you understand that everybody should understand and all these things, then you can observe and start to fill in your weights, your balances. You start to fill in when the sheriff should reveal to player number 2, when Dawn should do this check, when to... Now you understand kind of the phases of the games, when you should more play against, when you should more hide, when you should more check, when you should more do this and that. But you understand what to look at. You understand how to learn, hopefully. Don't memorize the game, learn how to think about it. This is the number one thing that I want you to take away. Try to understand what are the intersections of the game. What are the crossroads? Where should you make decisions? How to make the decisions? That's all you should think about when you play the game. And over the long run, you're going to outwin all your competition. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now with that, I will ask anybody if you have any closing questions or anything else that you would like to know.
I will bug you in private for sure. Because I want to know more about it. And I do have one question. It's not a question, one request from you. If you can please share the presentation with us.
Yes, I will share the presentation, and also this entire session will be recorded.
Oh, perfect.
I
Thank you.
see that Lisa has a question. Yes, Lisa.
Yes. Hello. First of
Sorry, we can't hear you.
we touched at the end on, sportsmanship, motivation, and whatnot. What advice would you give players like myself, who, get tilted quite often, and, you lose one game, you're upset, lose the second game, you're more upset, you lost especially I'm talking about tournament settings, but even in casual games, when you already lost 5 games, and it's very hard not to get, kind of upset and not to be I'm throwing everything away, that's it, I'm a horrible player, there is no hope, or people don't understand me, whatever. What advice would you give to get out of this kind of tilted state? Thank you very much.
Great question. Before I answer it, I will say that no matter what advice I give, everybody tilts, myself included, as you probably have experienced. There is no... Welcome back, Lisa. So as I was saying, whatever advice I will give, everybody tilts. Even the most mental players, everybody eventually tilts. But we can only think about how to lower it and mitigate it, especially in a tournament, of course. What is the number one tilting thing in Mafia? Mafia is a team game. So unlike, let's say, chess, where you can only blame yourself, you are directly influenced by other players. That means that no matter how good or bad you play, you can still win when you play superb and lose when you play lose when you play superb and win when you played absolutely terribly, because there are 9 other players that play. So either your team can play really bad in spite of you, or really good in spite of you, and the opposing team can play really good or bad in spite of you. So you are only 10% of the game. However much you do, usually it's a team game. So for your question about tilt, the number one, and this is something that happens in all team games, in soccer, in League of Legends, you can always get mad at your teammates and how good your opponent is and all this. The number one anti-tilt thing is to understand that you should only judge yourself according to yourself. Now this is a lot easier to do in a casual game. So in a casual game, let's say that isn't even in the statistics of Swipehill. Well, if you really know how to judge yourself, you think, okay, how did I do it according to game theory, right? Or maybe somebody very experienced from the outside can look and tell you, well, in your position, I would have done the same, and you played according to the game theory optimal, whatever. So even if you lost or you won, you don't judge yourself based on the outcome of the game. You judge yourself based on the outcome of yourself, like how you played. But of course, in a tournament setting, where no matter if you understand that you played good, or if you won and you understand that you played bad and you want to be mad at yourself, you are very much influenced by how everybody else looks at you, how everybody else looks at your rating. And this is the number one tilting thing. So I would say just try to be aware of it. Be aware that you need to judge yourself according to yourself, not according to any external factor. And that also means being mad at yourself when you win and you played bad. So for example, if I was the sheriff and I made a terrible check and I still won, I still want to think with myself, wow, I'm such a noob, I did that, I will improve for the next game. Okay, you don't have to, cuss yourself, but you want to be honest with yourself. And if you're honest with yourself when you did mistakes and you won, then you can be less tilted and be honest with yourself when you played great and you lost.
Yep, thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I really liked how you presented all the different theories, and I wrote in the chat that we are thinking about the expected value, or we think about a wide range of games and not about the particular game. And I guess the next step would be to, I know it's not part of the theme today, but if we can think about just one or two practical advice per role. So, for example, we talked about the role of the Don, two practical advices are kill the sheriff early or kill someone who is likely to be the sheriff. And if you fail, kill a red player that is unlikely to leave the table. Sorry, you want to kill a player that is unlikely to be voted out, right? Can you have these two kind of some rules of thumb for the other cards, for the other three roles, for a gun, for a civilian, and for a sheriff?
Yes. So the reason, great question. The reason I gave those rules for the Dawn in 9 players and all this is because you can derive from that everyone else. So as a rule of thumb, as a sheriff, you want to hide in 9 players. Rule of thumb, sometimes the Mafia manages the tables, you gotta reveal against them, stop them from causing havoc, but you just want to hide. The rule of thumb so let's do it quick. If you are the Don, find the sheriff, shoot them, and hide. If you cannot do that, make a believable sheriff. Already think in advance what is your sheriff, and if you are hiding, think in advance who you cannot eliminate and shoot them. If you are a sheriff, all you're trying to do is to make checks that produce as many different colors as possible, and hide. You should only reveal in the last possible moment, when you need to give the information, because it's a critical round. If you're a Mafia, you should, as a rule of thumb, play linear, strengthen your Mafia, attack civilians, let other civilians attack civilians. You know who does that beautifully? Mr. Grizzly. Everybody's trying to hide, everybody's this. Grizzly just destroys the red. And you know what happens? He wins. He wins so many games. So as a rule of thumb, you want to play linear with your team against the other team. And only if you know for a fact the engine stopped, the sheriff is dead, and you can hide, then you want to start be tricky and hide and play against and do this and do that. Optionally, you can still play with or without, but yes. So we've covered the Don, the Sheriff, the Maf, and as a civilian, you want to know all of this stuff, and in my opinion, you want to postpone decisions. Of course, if let's say somebody confesses, well, then you eliminate them immediately. So if somebody plays in a way where it's so much unbelievable, then you can make the decisions. But generally speaking, you want to postpone decisions, make decisions with as much information as possible, and help and play in a way that allows the sheriff to hide and the mafias to think that you are the sheriff. These are the rule of thumb. Because if you just go in 9 players, and this is why I personally don't like the split in 9 players unless the sheriff is killed first or something like that, because you just allow the mafia to reveal every time, try to split 3 players every time, and force the sheriff to reveal. You want to make plays that allow the sheriff to stay behind the curtain, and that makes the mafia possibly think that you are the sheriff. Of course, redden yourself, find players, but yeah, that would be this. Don't find the sheriff and kill him. Sheriff, find good checks and stay hidden. Mafia, play linear until you don't have to, until the sheriff is dead. And a civilian, postpone decisions, help the sheriff hide, and act as a possible sheriff.
Amazing. And one final question, a final tip for more intermediate, I would call it even more advanced tables. Mm-hmm. How can sheriffs hide? Because when I played in a more advanced table, okay, with players that are very much experienced, that are playing for many years, in those tables, in the round of 9, the sheriff was almost always shot, and I wasn't sure how. How can the mafia always find the sheriff based on the behavior of the civilians?
Fantastic question. This is indeed a slightly more advanced one, which requires both the sheriff to act in a hiding way and also the civilians to not reveal as just plain civilians. The way where advanced players find the sheriff in 9 players, they a lot of time go by elimination. So a lot of newer civilians do things that 95% of the time they only do it as civilians. If they were sheriff, they would act differently. For example, a sheriff that have a blackjack has a very clear target that they just attack. Civilians sus more here, sus less there. A sheriff could very just defend one player. Now, of course, when you evaluate 2 versions in a critical, you can say, well, he didn't act as a civilian. As a sheriff, he just did whatever he wanted in the round. So it is a balance, like how much you hide as a sheriff, where you're going to be not believable. You do want to leave hints for the town later on when they evaluate if you are the sheriff that, look, I did try to eliminate my black check. I did protect my red check. But I didn't go out of my way to let the mafia shoot me. So the tip would be, as a sheriff, you want to steer the game in the direction of your checks, but not suicide on them. Not say everybody, no, you have to eliminate 3. Okay, so you eliminate them next round, where it's, you know what I mean? You do want to get your way, and maybe you want to reveal to someone, just one person or whatever, but you want to stay hidden. And if you're a civilian, don't be afraid to sprinkle a little sheriffness. The worst thing is, the sheriff is not going to check you and more likely to check a mafia because they think you might be a counter sheriff. But usually, it's just good. If all the civilians and sheriff act in the same way, then it's hard for even advanced players to find the sheriff. Because, like, let's say you really attack someone or you really protect someone, or you'll be like, before that I thought he's black, but now I think he's more red. I don't know, like just sprinkles. Now it has to be your real opinion as well, or but basically don't let don't do, for example, there are things that civilians do that you know they're civilians. They just sign a lot of checks, and they just, no, check this one, no, actually check that one, and really go head to head with a lot of people and all this. Now, a sheriff, sometimes they try to hide and they sign a lot of checks, but they sign less checks, they are more observant. And maybe they don't clash with the entire table because they are a sheriff and they want to be good with people, right? So they play a wide position and they take a lot of players and all this. So maybe don't play such a wide position, and maybe as a civilian, don't act in a way that determines that you are just a civilian. Think about it. Okay, I think
I've summarized the last final tips in the chat, so maybe this is something that you can also copy and put later on the screen. And I want to say thank you so much, Diffmaker. It was really interesting because it's such a perspective that we usually don't see. We rarely, usually we talk about the practicalities of tips of what to do in this situation or that situation, in this level, in that level. But you take a step back and going to the theory behind it and using game theory and some maths and statistics to go back to the basics and letting us trusting our intelligence to build bridges and move forward based on that foundation. I think it's a really, really useful method, and I think everyone that are watching this either live or in the reruns are going to gain a lot out of this. Anyone else of the participants has a final comment or question before we wrap it up and go play Mafia on Swiper?
Yes, a lot of thank you.
Well, thanks, Vampy, and thank you, Mordred, and thank you to everybody who joined here and to the 9 watchers we have on the live stream. My goal was only to give you the tools to improve and to open, your mind to the theory behind it. I think there are no shortcuts. Thank you for joining, and I will share everything, all the materials and the recording. So thanks everyone.
You.
And
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you on the next World Cup events and keep following us. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Mentos, you can close the meeting. Yeah.